listening to CLNS Media, powered by betonline.ag. Go to clnsmedia.com/roll. Use our promo code CLNS50 for 50% off your first deposit.
Bleeding purple and gold from the heart of Los Angeles. This is the LakersNation.com podcast with your host, Trevor Lane.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. As always, we are powered by CLNS Media and LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn, Robinhood, and BetOnline.ag. We'll talk a little bit more about them in a bit. And of course, Lakers Nation's official energy drink sponsor, Uptime Energy Drinks, how energy should feel. You can find them at 7-Eleven, GNC, and Amazon.com. The NBA Finals are raging. It looks like the Toronto Raptors might actually steal this thing and take home the trophy, but we're going to dive into that. We're going to talk all about the Lakers. We're going to talk about free agency. We'll talk a little bit about the young Lakers too. Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, Kyle Kuzma, what their future projects to be. Joining me today is Coach Nick from BballBreakdown. Coach, thanks so much for hopping on.
Hey, my pleasure to be here, Trevor.
Guys, make sure you go follow him on Twitter at BballBreakdown. So, Coach, let's talk first about the NBA Finals. You've got right now, as of this recording, the Raptors are up 3-1 against the Golden State Warriors. Are you surprised at the outcome? I think that the Warriors were the heavy favorite here heading in.
You know, I am surprised, but not like hugely surprised, because obviously without Kevin Durant, it just changes everything. Right. You take a starter off of any NBA Finals team, and they're going to have a problem, adjusting and dealing with that. So it almost doesn't matter if it's KD or not. But then you add the fact that how important he is to their offense and defense, and it is a thing. Now that said, they've had Clay for 3 games, and he even looked good coming back. They have Curry, they have Draymond, they have Boogie. So you'd think they'd have enough, but this is the lowest offensive rating they've had in their entire finals run the last 5 years. And
what do you attribute to that to? Is that just the Raptors' defense is that good, or is it something that the Warriors are doing that isn't clicking because they're used to having KD here? What's your take?
Well, I think what it is it's a game plan by the Raptors, and it just so happens I'm doing a video on this very subject today on YouTube, so check that out. But basically what they're doing is, they're playing too many lineups, or I guess a necessity because it's who they rely on. But when you have Iguodala and Draymond Green in the lineup together, and then you throw Livingston out there, and then Boogie Cousins is shooting horribly from the field too. If you look at the quality of shots, they're all really good. They're just not hitting them, but it's partly because they're not great shooters. Draymond has never been a good shooter from 3, but it's a concerted effort in a team-wide sense defensively to force those shots to happen. And that's why you got to give credit to the Raptors defense as much as you want to put the blame on, Draymond Green.
Gosh, isn't this weird when you think about it? When you look at this Warriors roster and you look at their whole makeup, they don't have that many shooters, and we tend to think of the Warriors as a really good shooting team because of Clay, because of Steph, and because of KD. But outside of that, it's the shooting that seems to be really hurting them.
Oh, I agree. And that's been a problem for a while now. Last year, they had the same issue, too, and they were very top heavy. And again, because of the way the salary cap works and all those things, that was what the trade-off was. They knew they were going to have to bring in whoever they could get to fill in the bottom, 8, 9, 10, 11 slots, and then deal with, someone like Sean Livingston, who had been good in the mid-range. It really can't hit the side of a barn, even though he did make a few in Game 4. He's been really problematic, and his shooting form has always been problematic to me anyway. So they've been able to kind of get by on those and always have, KD in there, or always have Steph. For as much as Clay is injured or not injured or whatever, Curry looks off to me. He was sick in 1 game and had no energy. Yeah. He kind of looked lethargic again in Game 4. He seems to get an excuse every year or something up with him too. But it would be nice to see the Curry we all know and love out there bouncing off of screens and getting open shots.
I mean, he's still putting up some big numbers on those nights when he's really having to go off, but I don't know about the efficiency. It's probably not great there. And this has been something that people have been kind of predicting for a while now, waiting for the downfall of the Warriors. Is this it for them? Do you think this is the end of the Warriors dynasty, assuming they do go on to lose this series, which, I mean, who knows? They still could come back. Kevin Durant is awfully good if he does come back healthy.
Right. I mean, the problem is he's probably not going to be in shape. He's going to be out of sync. So, but, they don't need too much more. They just need like Draymond to shoot like a bad player. He's shooting like the all-time worst player. And so is DeMarcus Cousins he's shooting 30.4% from the field. Now, picture Cousins' shots. They're all within 4 feet of the basket. So if they could just get those guys to make a little bit more, then the game gets closer, and then maybe KD doesn't have to be amazingly awesome. But to get to your other point, Steph Curry's been in the league 10 years. He's 31 now. Clay is only 28, but he's been playing a lot of, they're 28, but like add in dog years because of all the playoff games. He's probably a little bit older in that sense. So KD is gone, I think, right? Can we agree on that one?
You think he's definitely leaving? See, I've been hearing people say that if they lose, then maybe he sticks around.
Well, either that or he's more injured than we know, and that's going to come out at some point and be a problem. I don't know. And then that's why they can offer him the most money. But I don't know. It just feels like a done deal. He just wants his own team and wants to do his own thing. He's gotten his 2 titles, and I doubt the 3, but maybe 3. So that might be enough. So to me, it kind of feels like he'll leave. And then all of a sudden it's a Wild West, even though they still have a lot of their core. But I'm terrible with the whole contract thing. Clay is a free agent, right?
Yeah. So Clay will be a free agent as well. And what we've heard about him is that as long as they give him the max, then he's going to stay in Golden State. It's if they mess around and they maybe don't offer him the max, that's where he may look elsewhere.
Right. And they'll give him the max. I always felt like he would be the first guy to leave because it felt like when they brought in, Kevin Durant, he was the guy that was going to suffer. And I remember he had quoted saying, I'm not going to give up any shots. But I think if you look at it intrinsically, even though the numbers, it looks like he is the one that had to sacrifice a lot. Now, certainly Draymond on the other side with all the assists he was getting and being the short roll man, kind of went away a lot when Durant arrived. But it did feel to me like Clay would be the guy who's like, I really want a shot at being the guy, even though it probably isn't his thing. I don't think he could lead a team and lead an offense like that. But so they'll probably reload him. I think Draymond is also an unrestricted free agent too, right? Am I crazy?
That'll be next year.
Oh, next year. Okay, good. So they'll be able to kind of reload. They bring in a guy. I was saying they should bring in like Rodney Hood to be that kind of Harrison Barnes role that before, but I think he'd probably be better than Harrison Barnes maybe. So then all of a sudden they're right there. They're not head and shoulders above everybody else, but you'd still have to kind of, I would think, favor them.
Now, what do you think about the Raptors at this point? I mean, they've been playing tremendous. Obviously, Canada is super excited. In fact, I think that if you look at the map that was put out before the finals showing what fans around the league supported, which team they supported, it was overwhelmingly for the Raptors because people are tired of seeing the Warriors win. But this Raptors team moving forward, what does this mean for them? I mean, first of all, huge if they get a championship, but then what's next? Does Kawhi wind up staying because they won?
I had thought for sure if they won, it guarantees he has to stay. He can't leave that. But somebody else was telling me who I ran into the street who's, just recognized me. Hey, Coach Nick, and he's a big Clippers fan. He's like, no, if he wins, then he's going to leave because he did his job. He came there to get the championship. He got it. Now he can leave with a good conscience. So and that kind of was like, oh, that's an interesting take, too, that maybe that would happen. There are these rumors that he bought a house or something like that in the Toronto area. And that would certainly be, indicative of something, especially if he's buying it like this time of year. It's a little bit weird. I think maybe Canada is different, but normally in America, like the buying season comes like closer to school starting in September. But not to be the real estate agent here, but so it's weird to me, and that might be something. Why else would you buy a house if you don't intend to stay?
Yeah, that is interesting, especially buying a house there. Look, if he was buying a house in LA. That wouldn't be a big, I don't think that would be a sign in any direction because a lot of guys live in LA during the off season. So if he buys a house there, no big deal. But buying a house in Toronto, that would seem to suggest that he's going to stay. And personally, from a Lakers perspective, if he's not coming to the Lakers, by all means, Kawhi, stay in the Eastern Conference, stay out there. Don't come to the Clippers.
Oh yeah, right. I mean that to me is the silliest thing is that you go go west like what LeBron did. But that said, maybe as the Warriors start to come back down to earth. Maybe the West isn't such a cutthroat, bloodbath anymore. I mean, I kind of think it is, but you got Milwaukee, you got Toronto, you got Philly. Like there are finally some teams in the East that will be good and be really tough to get by. So all of a sudden, that decision is a little bit, more nuanced, right? I mean, even the Rockets, who knows if are they going to trade Chris Paul and break that up? Maybe they should. And so all of a sudden, where are all those good teams in the West, and how threatening really are they?
Yeah, a lot of people were talking about that during the season, looking at how the power is kind of shifting a little bit towards the East, especially if the Warriors do wind up breaking up this offseason. Who knows what will end up happening? They could still wind up being the powerhouse. The Houston is looking to reload. You can't count out Daryl Morey in any situation. You've got the Denver Nuggets, our young up-and-coming team. There's still some strong teams in the West, but out East, when LeBron left, it's like all these teams said, okay, here's our chance, and they really started loading up. You saw the Raptors make the move for Marc Gasol. A bunch of different teams made moves in order to strengthen their rosters. I think it's a good thing for the league if there's finally a little bit more East-West parity.
I believe me, for sure. And it's been such a stack to the West side for so long. We did an article at some point on the website a few years ago where they traced it back to Shaq going from Orlando to the Lakers. That was when it shifted, and it has never shifted back since.
That makes sense. Shaq moving would be a huge push towards the Western Conference. So yeah, that's something that we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on, especially this summer. We'll see if we see more stars heading east or if they are going to stay west. We'll see what happens. A ton of free agents out there. In fact, that's what I want to get into next is these free agents, the guys who are going to be free agents this summer. Obviously, Lakers fans are very curious about them, so we'll talk about them in just a moment. But first, let's talk a little bit about, let's go betonline.ag, who is, of course, one of our great sponsors. And so the Warriors and the Raptors, the series isn't over. You can still get in on all the action, and you can put some money in if you're confident in which side you think is going to win. There's only one place to get in on all the action. Grab the odds and allow the experts at betonline.ag to do the heavy lifting for you. Sports, live betting, virtual casino, you name it. betonline.ag is CLNS Media's preferred sportsbook online. If you're feeling lucky and would like to support our show, go to clnsmedia.com/LeBron. That's how they know that you came from us, and use the promo code CLNS50 to get a 50% sign up bonus. Again, that's CLNS50, betonline.ag, your online sportsbook experts. All right, Coach. So what I want to do
is use /bball if you want to use my code.
Oh, we got competing codes here. All right. Either way, it's all.
You're killing me though, man. I need to up my Bet Online reads. That was great.
I think you're beating me on the Bet Online reads on our official tally right now by a solid margin there, Coach.
Yeah, only because of Twitter, so not because I'm saying.
So let's go through the free agents. I want to just play a little game here. I want to name off some of the free agents, and you give me your gut on where you think they're going to land. Okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go. We're going to start at the top. We kind of talked about these first two already, but let's start with Kawhi Leonard. Where do you think he winds up?
Clippers.
Ouch.
Yeah.
That hurts.
Why not?
Let's do Kevin Durant.
New York. Do I have to specify?
What's that?
Do I have to specify, or can I just say the New York area?
New York. Oh, okay. So you're thinking he could go to Brooklyn.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I think I read that, heard that. Somebody said that to me or something. And so, are they going to be in play? They're certainly a really intriguing team, too, and are motivated. But, I mean, it's always been the Knicks, what I've heard this whole time. The next guy you're going to ask me probably. But let's see who you say next.
Well, so the rumor was that the Nets are now going after Kyrie, who's the next guy, and that he's going to bring in KD. So where do you think Kyrie lands? The rumor forever was New York. You think it's changed?
No, I mean, listen, I went to cover Kyrie's, the premiere of Uncle Drew. Uh-huh. Normally, when you do a big Hollywood premiere, it's in L.A., but they did it in New York. And the reason why, I guess, is because, Kyrie loves New York. That's his thing. Right. So that was like that. Even that, it was enough of like, oh, okay, that is indicative of something. So, I mean, to me, it would sound like I thought the Knicks were the thing. They in the right. Kyrie and KD. I mean, Madison Square Garden really is. If you've never been there, really is a mecca for basketball. So I could see why they'd walk in and be like, oh, we want to make this home. So I mean, that's what it sounds like to me. But the Nets have sort of snuck into the discussion a little bit there. But I would imagine it's still the Knicks, both those guys.
So you still have KD and Kyrie going to the Knicks. How about Klay Thompson? Does he stick around with the Golden State Warriors, or can another team get in there and steal him away?
Well, like I mentioned earlier, to me, I always thought that he'd be the one who'd want to leave, but there isn't a soul anywhere near Oakland that will tell you anything but that he's going to stay. He likes it there. He's chill. It fits his personality, yada, yada. So, I'll listen to that, I suppose, and just sort of say that, yeah, he will resign in Oakland.
Agreed. Seems like
excuse me. in San Francisco.
In San Francisco now. Yep. Yeah. It seems like all signs point to them staying. In fact, to Clay staying. In fact, the Lakers start off preseason by going up to San Francisco to play at the Warriors' new arena. In fact, they play the Warriors 4 times in preseason this year. Pretty weird, but that's the way the schedule worked out. Here's one that's kind of odd, I think. Chris Middleton.
Yeah, I was just thinking about him. We were talking about the East, and he shifts the power. By the way, if he leaves the Bucks, then they're not nearly as good as they are now. Wow, I haven't really heard much about him, but he's going to be one of the most sought after free agents without question. The Bucks can offer him the most. So, and the most years, right? Unless that's changed.
Oh yeah, they can. Would you max him? Would you give him a max contract? I know that's a question mark for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think he's the second best player. I mean, listen, the Bucks fans have been torturing me all year long about the Bledsoe thing. But I would. A guy like that, as long as that who can play defense and shoot threes, that's the kind of guy you should be drafting at the top of the draft. I mean, I'm tired of seeing these big guys who look with potential get picked first or second. It's the guy who's 6'9", 6'10", who's long, who can play defense and can shoot threes is the guy you're going to want, like the Kevin Durant sort of style. But now you don't even need that off the dribble stuff. You just need him to be able to shoot threes and D up. So I would give him the max, and he's also like a good teammate, good character, the things you want in your locker room. So I would give him whatever I could give him to keep him, and so I suppose I'll just say that's what they'll do, and he'll stay.
So that's something that I see as well. I think he does stay. I think he said some really positive things about the Milwaukee Bucks, which, not everyone wants to go play in Milwaukee. So I think that they have to keep him. And cap-wise, I don't know that they can actually spend the money to replace him if he does leave, because they'd be an over-the-cap team. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Another one that's hard to get a read on, Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, well, then you're hearing, will he come to the Clippers, and then him and Kawhi? Mm-hmm. Does he team up with Kyrie and KD in New York? It sounds like he's not going to stay in Philly. I think is sort of right.
I saw the Philly was going to give him the 5-year max, but if you're Jimmy Butler, if you don't like where you're at, and I don't know that he doesn't like where he's at, but do you think he might go elsewhere, even if he does have that 5-year max on the table?
I think with the role he had in the situation, some of the time he'd be foolish to leave, because that's going to be the premier team. They'll figure some stuff out, maybe get another shooter, get a little bit more talent in there around the two guys, I think. Although in theory, there could be an argument for the fact that Simmons and Embiid just don't. It's not going to be a title thing. It's going to be a problem, and he might kind of feel that. Now, I definitely also felt like there were times he got marginalized and really was having trouble fitting in on the offensive end, and that could, he seems a bit fickle, and he could just sort of, I want to get out of here kind of thing. He's sort of burned bridges in the past with other teams. Yeah. So I would think I'd be lean toward him leaving. So we got that out of the way. I would say he's not going to stay, although I still think it's probably the best situation he can be in. And because I don't know any other team he would join that would be able to take him in that would be that good. Right? Am I missing
the
somebody?
Lakers?
Well, yeah, okay. But the Lakers, obviously. Yeah. So is he coming to the Lakers? For sure. I'm sure he trains in L.A. I'm sure he loves L.A. in the summers. So the Lakers could be a really good destination. That makes a lot more sense. And they would throw all the money they can at him.
So he was on Instagram a few days ago, and he was getting on board a plane, and he took a picture and put it up on Instagram with him wearing purple and gold Nikes. And so everybody went crazy thinking, oh, that's a sign, that's a sign. Don't you love this? This is the social media age where everything is a sign. Who's following who? It means that they're going whichever way they can. You got the social media sleuths out there.
It's a sign. It is a sign, though. He doesn't just do that randomly, right?
No. He knew what he was doing.
Yeah. So, and if it's a sign he wants the Lakers to just to make sure, hey, either gauge the public reaction, B, maybe get some excitement so the Lakers feel like that they're going to pay him, but they're going to offer him the max anyway, right? I think that's the key. He's going to get whatever his max is. So I don't think that's necessarily an issue, but that's not a random thing at the very least. And
I'll tell you what, you've got these guys that are on here that may, Kevin Durant, guys like that, they may do the LeBron thing where they do the 1+1, which he did in Cleveland forever. Those 1-year deals that have a second-year player option so they can hit free agency again and again and again. with a guy like Jimmy Butler, we talked a little bit about mileage on players. It's not necessarily the years, it's the mileage, and the Warriors all have this high mileage because they played so many playoff rounds. Jimmy Butler played for Tom Thibodeau for so long. His mileage is pretty high too. So if I'm him, I'm grabbing as long of a deal as I possibly can, because who knows when he's going to start wearing out. He's already hitting 30. So that's something to keep an eye on there. Kemba Walker, let's talk him.
Yeah, he's unrestricted, right?
Yep, unrestricted. He has said that he said some really good things. Said that the Charlotte Hornets are his number one priority, dealing with them. But he also qualified for a supermax by making third team All NBA. So that means he could be making upwards of $40 million. I don't know. I don't know that they're going to offer him that. That could create some friction. We've heard maybe New York. We've heard some different landing spots for him. What do you think about him?
I like him. He's been playing in Charlotte, which is a little bit of obscurity. It's hard. I have to admit, I haven't watched a ton of his games, but certainly the guy is extremely talented. But I would probably balk a little bit at paying him $40 million a year. That said, I'm kind of want to call up his numbers real quick, because I feel like I'm forgetting what they were this year, because they were they were as good as they've been ever. 25.6 points. 5.9 assists. He doesn't have a lot of guys who are going to give him dimes. So maybe on a better team, that's 8 assists, maybe, right, or 7. And he shoots 43% from the field, and he's sort of been around that. And he shoots 36% from three. He was a little bit better. He was better in the last couple of years. His 3-point attempts tend to be a little bit off the dribble, tough. I don't know. I don't know if he has the kind of effect that like Curry does that would merit like the supermax for that anyway. But I would imagine he'll stay. I mean, he's got the run of the place. He's got, he can make the most money there. I suppose, I don't know who would actually make a big pitch for him that needs like a point guard like that. I guess the Lakers.
Possibly the Lakers, if they decide that they want to play, if they're going to trade Lonzo or play him off ball. The other thought I was thinking is, what if let's say Kyrie goes to Brooklyn, KD goes to New York or goes to the Knicks. Could the Knicks then swing in and say, look, Kyrie went elsewhere, then just pivot to Kemba, because there is a little bit of a similar game to a degree between Kyrie and Kemba.
Wait, okay, so do that one more time.
So let's say Kyrie goes to Brooklyn. He goes to the Nets.
Brooklyn.
KD goes to the Knicks. The Knicks have 2 max slots available. They wanted Kyrie. Kyrie doesn't go to them. Do you then just turn to Kemba?
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me too. I mean, that's probably what they're going to have to do, right? Yeah. That's funny. Everyone has these big designs of getting the big names, and only one team gets them, so they have to then what's next. So that's why like Butler is probably who the Lakers are going to get. They're not going to get Kyrie. They're not going to get KD, I don't think. Right. So then that's why they get Butler. And so that makes sense to me that maybe a Kemba goes to New York. Is he from there?
No, I think I don't know where he's from originally. I know he played his
sorry, he was born in the Bronx.
Kemba did? Kemba was? I didn't know that.
By the way, he might not have been raised there, but he was born in the Bronx, according to BballRef. Ref.
All right, cool. So, well, then maybe there's a link there then. I didn't realize that. Yeah,
so that makes sense to me. I can go with that.
Okay, so Kemba Walker may be going to New York. Now, I've got 2 left, and these are guys where pretty much everybody else on this list has been clear. Here, take my money. Here's the max salary. It's yours, right? The next 2, though, I'm not so sure about. Nikola Vucevic.
Yeah, he had a good year.
He did. He had a really good year. The big question on him was always the defensive end of the ball, but he actually got a lot better there. He killed the Lakers in the 2 games that they played against the Orlando Magic. He shot the 3 pretty well, but is this kind of a flash in the pan 1-year thing? Are you comfortable giving him max money over a 4-year or 5-year deal? I don't know. He's going to be a real tough one to call.
Yeah. Is it one of those things where, like, is he, did he have good stats on a team that wasn't so good? Let's see, but they did make the playoffs. Wait, right? Am I going crazy? They made the playoffs. Yes, they made the first round. Yeah, they lost the Raptors. So, so that's a good sign that like they actually played reasonably well. They won game. They were over 500, and he did well. So it's indication that maybe it's not just one of those kind of guys who's like this, cleaning up on a bad team.
Right.
So I would think that someone's going to really give him, a max. I think so.
And
is that the question?
Yeah, is somebody going to give him the max, and then where's a good landing spot for him? And I suppose the bigger overarching question that we need to talk about here is, as a center, has that position become devalued in the modern NBA? Like, if you're going to max somebody, do you want it to be a center, or are you better off spending max money elsewhere?
You could actually, max money is certainly a thing. Like maybe you can spend it elsewhere. However, there could be an argument made as far as where we're going and how we're doing that position is going to become more important because it's where people are rotating off of, and it's where you're going to get. You need to have someone who can actually score well. Like for instance, if Boogie Cousins in that position with the Warriors could just be better, then they would be 2-2. Or maybe even something else, because he's so bad. He's getting those shots. Like that's the moment where you need that production there, because everyone else is they're loading up on the point guard areas and the small forwards and that kind of thing defensively. So I would argue that there could be a sense of that. Plus, the best 3-point shots are when you throw the ball down low and you kick it out. And if you have a threat down there who can really take more advantage and more focus of people down there on occasion to score in the post-up moves, that should open up threes as well. So I would think that it won't go away. He should have a lot of value. So
inside-out play would help him there. Plus, he can actually step out and shoot the three as well. I think he's pretty versatile on that end. So interesting player. Any particular landing spot that you like for him? Or does he just stay in Orlando? I mean, that's always possible with these guys.
Yeah, no, I mean, Orlando, they got a good coach. They're building something there. I would almost think that it's probably the best situation for him, because you never know. You come in on a new situation, a new team, new guards. They got to learn who you are and how you like it. And if they're already well established, then maybe it's harder to get those touches that he gets now. Remember, that's what a big man has to be concerned with, because he's not handling the ball, bringing it up, right? So yeah, I would kind of feel like if Orlando gives him anywhere near what he wants, he should just take it.
Agreed. Yeah, and I could see him staying there in Orlando for sure. Last one, and this is going to be probably the most controversial one, and I've seen people that are high on him. I've seen people who are extremely low on him. We've already talked about him a bunch. DeMarcus Cousins. What the heck happens with him now that he comes back from injury and he's not looking so good here in the finals? Do people understand that it's an injury thing and they still pay him and assume he's going to be healthy next year? Or what do teams do with him?
Yeah, he was never a guy who got off the ground very high anyway, but now it's really a problem, and he's looking bad. And I know people will have to rationalize in their head saying, we know he's hurt and he's pushing himself and it should be whatever, but you can't help it. Like, what are you thinking about now? The last 4 games, right? I don't remember what he did last year or whatever. It was great before he got injured. I'm only going to be thinking of that, or a lot of that. So it'll cost him money. I think that he's going to, ultimately have to take some sort of break from what he thought he was going to get. Now, maybe the Warriors re-sign him. Is that possible? It's
unlikely. They don't have a whole lot of money to throw at him because they're so far over the cap at this point. They'd basically have to. They went into this season assuming they were going to lose him because they knew they wouldn't be able to pay him. But now that he's playing so poorly, he may end up being in a situation kind of like last year all over again, where he has to take maybe a 1-year deal that's not quite at market value just to kind of prove that he's back and he's good to go.
Because they lose Durant, but I think they're still over the cap at that point, right?
Yeah, because Curry's will be making a ton. Clay would be making a bunch. Yeah, between those guys alone.
So right, but so they had like the mid-level exception or something like that, which would be not terrible for a year. So maybe he would do that. The Warriors need to be willing to take him back as well, and that might be something they do or don't want to do. I don't know. But he'll have value. But a guy who's not mobile in the best of situations is going to have less and less value. That's why Vucevic he can put the ball on the ground. He can move. That's right. All very valuable. Capella can, he can get up and they can vertically, throw alley-oops and cause pressure that way. He doesn't really do those things. So, I think the best thing that Boogie did this year was sort of prove he could be part of a team and not be disruptive, right? It feels like that's what came out of this. And that's really important, too, because that's what kind of chased him out of Sacramento ultimately. So, I don't know, man. I would think – I don't know. What, are you thinking anybody in particular?
No, it's really hard to see who's going to gamble on him, where he could wind up going. I've had a number of people tell me, the Lakers should sign him on the cheap and everything, but it's really hard to peg where he could wind up. And there's a lot of situations where they either already have a center in place, like Capella with the Rockets, or you wonder if his mobility is really going to work with them. We've got these run and gun teams, and you need a center who can really get up and down the floor. That doesn't seem to be DeMarcus Cousins' game at this point, as talented as he is.
Yeah, I agree now, but it does feel like, the Lakers, I don't want to. I'm sorry. This is a Lakers pod, so I know everyone. They're diehard fans. I feel I'm concerned about their free agent prospects this year. I just feel like they're going to strike out on who they really want, and that's when you see like guys like Boogie get signed, right? Because they have to sign something. They have to make some sort of splash and put a good face on it, and that's why it feels like And you know what? What are the odds that it would work out? 50-50, 60-40, maybe in favor. I don't feel great about it, but it could, and that's what the Laker fans. They might have to sort of come July 10th or 11th by the time everything is getting solidified. That might be what they're hanging their hat on.
Yeah, and that's the nightmare scenario, obviously, for the Lakers. They don't get anybody in free agency, and then you go spend your money, you overpay someone who shouldn't be getting that much money so you can say we got somebody, and you kind of appease LeBron. That would be the dangerous situation to be in, and then maybe you have to go trade some of your young talent to go bring in somebody like who Anthony Davis or Bradley Beal or whatever. So that's going to be something to keep an eye on. Certainly in free agency, it's going to be up to, look, I mean, we went over a number of names. There's way more landing spots than there are players out there that actually get the max, that are actually worth that kind of money. So no matter what happens, there's going to be teams that leave free agency without getting a player that they want. And then the question is, what do you do from there? Do you wind up just kicking the can down the road and try to preserve money for the following year? Or do you then go and you overpay a, say, tier 2 or tier 3 free agent so you can at least say you got somebody? That's where teams really get themselves into trouble. Lakers fans know it all too well with Luol Deng and Timofey Mozgov.
Oh, I think you can go in the next step further because you have a locker room. You have real people who have to interact with each other.
Yep.
So you bring in Beasley, you bring in Lance, you bring in Rondo, you bring in JaVale.
Yep.
It was a surprise they ended up having what they should have cut Beasley, but they had a big blow up and it sounded like could have been physical. And and then they also shot themselves in the foot by, instead of cutting Beasley, they trade away Zubats and get Muscala. And so those are just avoidable mistakes, and they didn't have to do it that way. And you have to be a little bit worried because LeBron comes in and wants to have a certain amount of control over things, and he's got to be the player on the court too. He's got a lot of things to do, and it's really hard to kind of be excellent at everything. So they've got their work cut out for him. I know players talk, and we've seen the Magic. The Magic experience was probably left a little bit of a stain on the front office. So. They have their work cut out for him for sure.
Yeah, they definitely do. And in fact, we're going to get into the young Lakers here in just a moment. But first, a quick shout out to Robinhood, an investing app that lets you buy and sell stocks, ETFs, options, and cryptos, all commission free. While other brokerages charge up to $10 for every trade, Robinhood doesn't charge any commission fees, so you can trade stocks and keep all of your profits. Plus, there is no account minimum deposit needed to get started, so you can start investing at any level. The simple, intuitive design of Robinhood makes investing easy for newcomers and experts alike. View easy-to-understand charts and market data, and place a trade in just 4 taps on your smartphone. You can also view stock collections, such as 100 Most Popular. With Robinhood, you can learn how to invest in markets as you build your portfolio, discover new stocks, track your favorite companies, and get custom notifications for price movements so you never miss out on the right moment to invest. Robinhood is giving listeners of Lakers Nation a free stock like Apple, Ford, or Sprint to help you build your portfolio. Sign up at lakers.robinhood.com. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the young Lakers. So Kyle Kuzma, Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, they are getting dissected once again. Now that Anthony Davis trade rumors are coming up, you've got some fans saying these guys are terrible, they're not good trade assets. Other people are saying, no, they're actually really good. I'm hearing the argument they couldn't win without LeBron. Why would the Pelicans want these guys? Let's get into their value a little bit and what steps they need to take as players. What's your overall take on this Lakers young core and what they've got moving forward?
I like them for the most part. I was probably one of the first guys. I did a video, was it last year, maybe, or the end of the year before, where I kind of anointed the front office of the Lakers the best front office because they had got nailed so many of these picks from Kuzma to Hart to Ball was showing promise, and even Ingram. Ingram is the biggest question mark to me Is he even going to play anymore? What's that story right now?
Yeah, so right now Ingram had DVT, deep vein thrombosis, and they went in and did surgery to make sure they alleviated the problem and that it wouldn't come back. And what we saw, I believe it was from Eric Pincus the other day, was that people within the Lakers organization are very, very confident that he's going to be 100% healthy and it won't be becoming a recurring issue. It's not a Chris Bosh situation or anything like that where it's going to threaten his career. He should be good to go for next season.
Yeah, so he's good. My take on it was he just sort of so inconsistent that it's hard to know what the deal is. He's probably not the most ideal player alongside LeBron, which is another issue because he does seem to be better when he's got the ball in his hands more often. Now, it doesn't have to be that way. If LeBron would allow it to be, a different way and be off ball more, which, I will say that we did see a change. And I want to give LeBron props here because they were still the fastest paced team in the league while he was playing. I don't know if they finished out the season that way, but they were at least top 3, right?
Yeah, I think they finished either 3 or 4 in pace. They were up there.
Yeah, but while he was in the court for that first couple months until he went down, they were number 1. And that's impressive to me because LeBron, of all people, would have been like, no, I don't want to be running. We want to slow it down. So he was willing to go with it. That meant something to me, which is probably another reason why maybe like somehow Luke Walton was getting through. But, and nonetheless. So that is one thing for Ingram. He has to improve his 3-point shooting. He's got an ugly shot. But then again, people would say the same thing for Lonzo Ball, and I feel like he can make a consistent. He has a consistent stroke out of that shot. But speaking of ball in the hand, the one guy that really suffers is Lonzo Ball. If he doesn't have the ball in his hands, then all the magic goes away. That's what makes him so good. And it's probably the kind of thing where he just can't be in the Lakers alongside LeBron and reach his potential. So we'll never know how good he really is going to be in that scenario. And it sucks because what we have seen is just an incredible playmaker who needs the ball in his hands to be able to drive it. Now, he gets rid of it quick, usually on those 40-foot passes on the break, but he doesn't get those opportunities nearly as much, and now he's a spot-up shooter, which is not going to be his thing.
Yeah, with Lonzo, I think you don't need to have the ball in his hands at all times. He's not the Kyrie type of point guard or the Steve Nash archetype point guard where you've got him just pounding the ball and then probing the lane and sucking in the defense and then finding the guy either on the cut or out to an open 3. Lonzo's more, he likes the ball pinging around constantly, but you do want it in his hands at some point during each possession because you know that he's going to move it ahead to the right person at the right time. And of course, in transition in the fast break, he's a great person to give the ball to because he's so good at those hit-ahead passes. So, I can see where maybe his potential is somewhat stifled by LeBron, but I think that because of his defense, that gives him a nice fit with LeBron as well because he can really play a switching defense on the other end, and then because he doesn't have to have the ball in his hands at all times when he's in the half court, I think that helps him out as well. But at the same time, your point stands. You do need the ball touching his hands at some point in a possession instead of just going to LeBron and then dying there while he pounds the ball and then drives in or takes a jumper.
Yeah, to see Lonzo just standing still on the wing or in the corner, that just kind of bums me out. Because you're right, it's not like he's going to sit there like the Nash. But the more it comes into his hands on the move and moving, that's when the magic happens. That's what we need from him, and that's what is missing in the current configuration. And so it's really up to LeBron. LeBron could change, right? I mean, he's already been in the league so long; he's got his ways of doing things. But that would be nice. And getting back to Ingram, I mean, I give Ingram, the first 2 months of the season to show me that he's improved and he can play better and more consistently. And if he can't do it through December and he's in all the way, and if he can stay healthy, then I might start to, fold the book on him or close the book on him and move on.
Well, I can tell you that odds are he won't show it by December. And that's been his thing historically. He even did it at Duke. He's a slow starter. So his first few months of the season, you don't really see his true potential. Did it in college, he's done it all 3 years in the NBA as well. And then he really turns it on when the calendar turns to the next year. So this past January and February, right before the injury, he was amazing. He looked like everything that we could have hoped he would be. He was hitting tough shots. He was doing great things defensively. He was getting to his spots with no problem, using his length in the right ways, scoring tons of points and scoring efficiently. He was fantastic, but we didn't see that at the beginning of the year. So that's an issue.
And he starts really slow in the games, too, I feel like. There are times when he misses shots early, and then he kind of gets warmed up a little bit, and then all of a sudden, then he makes 3 shots in a row, and you're like, whoa, like, where was that in the first quarter? And that's a thing he needs to explore. Like, that's what they need to solve this summer. I mean, it's a concentration thing. It's a focus thing. It's a how do you properly warm up before the game so that you're ready to go instantly. It could be a training thing, the way they're training, and they're starting maybe too slow during the practice sessions. Whatever that is, they got to solve that, because you can't, if you want to be the upper level player, you got to come out from the tip and be ready to go. And that's a thing that will cause me to write him off if he can't solve that this summer.
Yeah, I mean, there were moments this last season where he looked like the next star alongside LeBron James. I mean, he looked like all-star caliber, but again, he didn't have that consistently, and that's something that that plagued the Lakers this season. So it's going to be a matter of figuring out how to fix that. And like you said, maybe it's a mental thing, maybe it's a preparation thing, but somehow he's got to figure out a way to come out in October ready to roll instead of hitting his stride really in January when the team's already kind of in a hole and struggling. So if we can see that level of Brandon Ingram, then that's going to be a big step forward for him if we can see that earlier in the year.
Remind me, that coincided with LeBron going down, or did he do it a little bit when LeBron was still on the floor?
It was when LeBron went down, but then he continued when LeBron came back. In fact, there were a few possessions that I remember vividly where LeBron even kind of took a back seat and let Ingram go and do his thing. So that was the big question mark, because for a while during the season, Ingram would only play well when LeBron was off the floor. He would then really start to get going, and so Luke would even push Ingram with the second unit more and more in order to give him that freedom. And so there was concern when LeBron came back that Ingram's game's going to go down, and instead he was able to continue right on up. So yeah, that was good to see. But initially there was an issue.
Right. Well, we'll find out. Kyle
Kuzma. Let's talk about him. So he's an interesting candidate, but didn't shoot very well. I know he's been working out with the shooting coach this summer, but what are your overall thoughts on him?
Who's he working out with? Do you know?
I can't remember what his real name is, but he's a lethal shooter on Instagram.
Oh, I saw him working out yesterday with Anthony Davis.
Yes. Yep.
Lethal shooter all of a sudden has gotten all these clients from Dwight Howard to look at that. Good for him. We won't comment on what I watched, but nonetheless, what's the deal? We saw him shoot a lot better his rookie year from 3.
Yeah, shot better his rookie year. I think he only shot about 33% or so from 3 this last season. That was an issue. Shoots a high volume too, so those misses were a big issue for him this past season. But I feel like he's a better shooter than what we saw this last season. He just has to kind of fine tune things.
Yeah, I think it's a shot selection thing, too. In my mind's eye right now, I could think of times when he would really just jack up threes that were contested and maybe early in the shot clock that, just shouldn't be shot. And that's a, film study, go through it, whatever. And I get it. This was a really tumultuous year. And I could kind of feel like, you could try and decide, I'm just going to shoot this no matter what happens when the ball comes to me. Like that could be a mindset that sets in with guys like that. And, they end up, being difficult shots. So, I would say that he is closer to what his rookie year percentage was and not. His form certainly looks fine to me. And, he certainly seems like a hard worker to improve. So I like him. I like his length. I like the fact that he can spread it. Now, what was your take on his defense this year versus his rookie year?
He told us that he worked a ton on his defense, and that was what he really worked on this past summer. And then it didn't really show up in his game this year. He's very aware that his defense is probably his biggest deficiency right now, and so he works on it, but we just haven't quite seen those results on the floor. He's not very good at making reads, and so that's created such issues with him out there on the floor defensively. I think he's capable. I think he's quick enough to switch out onto players and do some good things. It's the mental side of it that's getting him right now.
Yeah, I've seen tons of workouts with NBA players in the summers, and I never see anything really defensively that they're working on aside from maybe like lateral quickness stuff. And it's too bad because there's so many things they can work on. I get it. They don't want to get hurt by, playing one-on-one defense or like real. But, there seems to be some like ball awareness stuff where he's not always aware, ball man stuff, and his positioning on the weak side. Those are the kind of things that you can improve. And you don't need there's no contact involved in that. And that would be something that I think he would stand to improve on that end. And that would make everything else better. And that's not even mentioning on the ball stuff. So that if he could do that, then he would help the team even more. So we'll have to see. iffy on that one, but I like him. I like his energy. I like he seems to be a kind of guy you want in the locker room and you want on your team. He's got a lot of talent. So he to me would be the guy who could be, like a starter on a good team eventually. That could be his role. Like Ingram, I got to see more of what we were talking about in that January stretch because I'm still a little bit dubious. But I feel like Kuzma could be that really nice fifth starter on a good team.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, Kuzma didn't back down at all when LeBron came out. He wasn't shy about shooting. He wasn't shy about cutting and demanding the ball going to the basket or anything like that. It wasn't like he was awed by LeBron's presence or anything. Even if he was, he certainly didn't show it on the floor. So I think that's a little bit of a feather in his cap too. He doesn't back down from the moment at all.
Right. In fact, I'm going to be doing a talk this summer at the Pro Scout School in Vegas during the Summer League, and we're going to look at like how we missed certain things of players when they were in college versus when they get to the pros and all of a sudden they have these skills. And I think Kuzma is going to be one guy we're going to talk about from his rookie year about shooting threes, where he didn't do that at all or very much at all in college. And it was like, how did we miss this? So I'm going to do a deep dive into those kind of players to figure that out. And that's that just brought to mind when we're talking about Kuzma because I would again expect him to continue his progression and get better.
All right, before we wrap things up here, we've got to mention LinkedIn. Hiring isn't as simple as putting an ad in the paper or posting to a job board. When you're juggling hiring with everything it takes to grow your business, it's important that you reach the right candidates at the right time. That's where LinkedIn comes in. More than 650 million members visit LinkedIn every day to make connections, learn and grow as professionals, and discover new job opportunities. In fact, LinkedIn members add 15 new skills to their profiles and apply to 35 job posts every 2 seconds, which can be huge for your business. To get $50 off your first job post, go to linkedin.com/LakersNation. Again, that's linkedin.com/LakersNation, and you get $50 off your first job post. Terms and conditions apply. All right, Nick, question of the day. Let's finish up with this. What would you sacrifice of those young players in order to get Anthony Davis? Is there anybody that you would hold back, or is it I give up all of it in order to get AD?
I think last year when it was all going down, I was like, you can pretty much give up all of it, because the potential of AD and LeBron just seemed too great to overlook. I think I would like to keep one of those guys if you can. Like if you were a good GM and you figure it out, you would be able to keep one. And so one of those three, or maybe we put Hart in there too. I mean, I love Hart. I think Hart would be a great, first guard off the bench on a good team too. So I don't know, like off the top of my head, like maybe can you keep Kuzma and Hart and give them Ball and Ingram?
Yes.
And picks and whatever. That to me seems about what, would be, just enough for both teams to get back what they would need, I would think. I'm not even sure Anthony Davis is a solution. I don't know if he suddenly transforms him and LeBron become another powerhouse, but maybe. But it's not like instant, oh, my God, LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, that's a done deal. Like, it doesn't feel that way to me yet. But it would be nice. I don't know. And that's just sort of thinking about it quickly. Yeah, they could keep Kuzma and Hart because those are the kind of guys you need, I would say, more than the other two in theory if you get Anthony Davis on that team. So that seems to me what would work best.
So if you had if the Pelicans said, hey, look, we'll offer you either keep Lonzo, keep Ingram, or keep Kuzma Hart, your response would be, okay, you can have Lonzo and Ingram, but we'll keep Kuzma and Hart.
Yeah, and it's just the more realistic thing because obviously Ball and Ingram do have probably the most value. Or it's Ball right now. It's interesting because he keeps getting hurt, and we don't know and is a shooting thing or not. So, but in my mind, what I believe is what Ball could be, he would be behind Ingram as far as value, and those are the top two, and then you put Kuzma and maybe and Hart below that. So that seems to me realistically also just like the better deal for the Pelicans.
Yeah, and that is actually a realistic trade proposal. It's one I went over in my last show. They could offer up Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and after they sign whoever they pick with the fourth spot, those three pieces combined could be shipped out for Anthony Davis and still match salaries after the Lakers go and trade away and spend all their cap space. So that is a possibility. They could actually go that route, and I think that would be a pretty strong offer for the Pelicans to consider.
Yeah, because they're never going to get fair value back in theory. It's always hard when you do a superstar somewhere else and you're going to get multiple players back. It's always a hard thing. And if they do the deal properly, then they get to pick the fourth. Or they tell the Lakers who to pick that they want. So that's not that's an interesting part of it too. So that sounds as reasonable as they're going to find. I mean, I can't picture anybody else offering too much more than that as far as assets. So yeah.
All right, Coach. So last thing here, what do you have coming up? We know you're working on a few different things. Anything that you want to mention to all the listeners here and viewers about what you've got coming up here?
Sure. Well, I got plenty of finals coverage as long as the finals goes on. I'm working on a video right now about what the Raptors defense has been doing to stymie the Warriors. But then once the season ends, the beauty about my thing is that it becomes free agency and the draft and summer league, and I don't stop. I can do retro breakdowns of old games. The Lakers Celtics in the '80s are always do a big on when I do those. So I'm completely busy until I want to stop being busy in the summer until like August when I go out of town. So I am. We just were going to churn out content, podcasting and on Twitter and on YouTube, especially all those videos. So it's just a never-ending cycle over here in the BballBreakdown studio.
All right, guys. So make sure you go follow at BballBreakdown on Twitter and check out the at BballBreakdown channel on YouTube. Some great content there. Coach, thanks so much for joining me and helping me break down all this.
You got it. I'm in.
All right, guys, that's going to do it for today. Make sure you head over to LakersNation.com, your home for everything Lakers. If you're listening to the podcast version of this, make sure you head over to iTunes, rate, review, and subscribe to the show. And if you're on YouTube, go ahead and give us your comments. Give us your thoughts. What do you think about the Lakers off-season? Who should they be willing to part ways with? Should they try to make a trade? Which free agents should they go after? I'm curious to know what you guys think, so go ahead and respond down below. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Guys, till next time, my name's Trevor Lane. You can follow me on Twitter at Trevor_Lane. See ya.